Hey, everybody. I am Dr. Andy Roark, and this is the Uncharted Podcast. Gang, we got a great one today. We have a mother whose daughter works at a different hospital. They're both in vet medicine, but the daughter works at a front desk in a different hospital, and she's young and she's getting started in her career, and the practice manager and the associate vet are being mean to her. At one point, our front desk person asked for feedback. What do you not like? And she was told, your face. I'm not exactly sure how that happened, but it does not sound like a happy place to be. And our writer is like, I'm trying not to go mama bear on this. How do I know what's true? How do I know what's really going on? How can I advise my daughter when there's not a lot of other jobs in the area? We wade into that. We get into both the parental side and how it feels to be trying to support someone who's not having a good experience at work and who's sharing that. And then also we get into, what do you actually say? I mean, what if you're at the front desk and the manager and one of the associate vets are just mean to you, but the practice owner is great and they're very supportive of you? Where does this go? That's what we talk about. So anyway, guys, this is a really fun episode. I like this episode a lot. I think that you'll enjoy it. Let's get into it.
And now, the Uncharted Podcast.
And we are back. It's me, Dr. Andy Roark, and the one and only Stephanie Forget You Goss. Forget you. How are you doing?
I am good. How are you?
I am good. There's not a lot of songs that I can think of that straight up call people out for being petty. You know? I will be honest. I asked Chad. I was like, "Are there popular songs?" And he was like, "No, not really."
No. You know, you could have sang some Tom Petty.
Oh,
that would have made me happy.
Yeah, okay. That would have been. That's like quite a stretch. It's like, aha! I'm singing Stephanie, don't come around here no more, Goss, or Stephanie, you belong among the wildflowers, Goss. I me tell you, I saw Tom Petty in concert, and it was at like the end of his career. It was one of the best concerts I've ever seen. The guy was incredible.
Yeah, he's pretty amazing, and he was pretty amazing in concert.
Well, and he was one of those guys too that like his career had so many eras. That like he would play, he had like a weird 80s era. Like I don't know if you remember that, but Don't Come Around Here No More was one of those things. But yeah. Oh man.
Yeah.
So how are you doing?
It's quiet. The house is quiet.
Oh yeah.
It's just me and the cats. We're hanging out. We're having a heat wave here in Washington, which for us, yes.
You're getting our heat. Like we sent it over there. It's been raining for a week here, and like it's like I started to complain this morning of like it's just rainy and soggy. I was like, Andy, a week ago it was 100 degrees and you were complaining, and now it's been 73 degrees for 5-6 days, and like, don't you dare complain.
So I have to preface that though, because my partner was here, who lives in North Carolina, and was here this weekend, and you know, you guys get heat, like actual heat. Washington. Hot for Washington is like 75.
Yeah, totally. You're like a heat wave. Wow.
We have a literal heat advisory because it's supposed to be close to 80. But here's the thing. I tell people, imagine being in that heat and not having air conditioning, because it never used to be hot like that here. And so almost everything, it has no air conditioning because we always had, you know, cooler weather, and the breezes off the water help cool things down tremendously. And so, I mean, my house, the front of my house is all windows, which is amazing because I have a beautiful view of the water. But in the summer, when that heat is coming in the front of the house, it bakes, it gets hot. Yeah. So I had to roll out the portable air conditioner for the cats.
Yeah. Well, it's like when Atlanta got, you know, 2 inches of snow a couple years ago, and like it shut that city down for 2 days, and people made fun. But it's like like when you're not
prepared for
something. Yeah, people are like, oh, I live in Buffalo, and that's stupid. I'm like, in Buffalo, you are well prepared for this, and with good reason. And in Atlanta, that's not how it is. I had that same thought of like, this is a big deal when people don't have air conditioning or whatever. You know, it's it's not how they're set up. Oh man, it's funny how life is kind of going on. You were talking about sort of the house being quiet and everything. I was reading something recently that was saying that as you get older, you need to get better at being alone, and that has bothered me ever since I read it, because I'm like, I'm terrible at being alone, and I'm not getting younger. But I am.
You can't even be in the car for like a 10-minute drive without calling someone and talking to them.
Oh, and you know what happens if I decide to call someone and I call them and they don't answer.
I do.
I immediately call the next person on my list. Like, if you miss my call,
don't bother calling them back.
Well, you better
answer.
You better fall on that phone to hit call back, because you're about 30 seconds before I have moved on.
True.
And I have talked to someone else, because I just, it's going to be a problem, Goss. Like, some people are worried about going to a nursing home. I'm stoked. Like, I'm going to, a bunch of people who can't go anywhere. Like, I'll bend your ear. And then we'll all forget what I said, and I'll tell my stories again tomorrow, and we'll all think it's great. I'll enjoy telling them, and you'll enjoy hearing them. It'd be great if we end up in the same nursing home with no memory, and we can just do the same mailbag question over and over again and feel like we're changing the world.
Oh, I mean, maybe, because I bet you anything in old people's home in South Carolina is going to have air conditioning. So
then we'll die, and we'll end up in the afterlife together, and I'll be like, "We're making podcasts. This is heaven," and you're like, "No, it's not." No, it's not.
Oh, man. Well, we got a good one in the mailbag. So we got an email from a mama bear who is in veterinary medicine. They have been in the field for over 20 years, and a lot of their time was spent in practice management. And their own child has found their own love of veterinary medicine and is going to school and working as a CSR in a rural town. And so their kid has been having challenges with an associate veterinarian in particular, and the practice manager. And they have had multiple conversations with the owner, DVM, and the management team regarding their challenges. And they've been getting assured that they would take up the issue and talk to the two to try and resolve the challenge. But that hasn't happened, or if it has, they haven't felt any difference. And so they were saying, my daughter asked for feedback. And examples of the feedback that they're getting from their leader is, I don't like I don't like your face, which I can only imagine someone saying that to them. I'm guessing like they made a face, because the other part of it was like, you roll your eyes too much, right? So I could totally see.
Yep. Okay.
And I'm totally stereotyping here.
It's like, can I have some feedback? Yeah, I don't like your face.
I don't like your face.
Oh, okay.
But, like things that seem very personal and also be petty, right? Like, I don't like your face. You're yawning too much. You roll your eyes too much, that kind of stuff. And the mom said, my daughter admitted, like, I can work on the eye rolling. Younger person owning that, right? Which I love. And they were like, okay, so today I got a call from my daughter because there was an incident with the associate DVM in front of the entire team, because an emergency came in. The daughter went to the back to inform the associate, and the associate looked at them and said, I don't care. And so imagine being a young CSR who's trying to do your job, and you're getting, basically pushed aside by the associate veterinarian in the practice. Yeah. And so the daughter is looking for other job options, but they live in a small town, and there's not a lot of options. And said, do you guys have any suggestions other than me just being mama bear and flying out and, helping her take care of it? Because it hurts as a parent when your kid is hurting. And then begrudgingly, I have to admit that this mailbag included a message to Andy.
Yes, it did.
This manager was very excited and said, big thank you to Andy for the cowbell idea, that their plants are doing great now that I've been running the deer off with their own cowbell.
Yes. For those who are unfamiliar, I went and spoke at Mississippi State University's College of Vet Medicine one time, and they gave me a ceremonial cowbell to commemorate my business, because they shake them at the football games, and I keep it next to the door. And when I see the deer eating my plants, I grab it, and it is loud. Like, it is the neighbors have commented on what is that thing. And I just, how something will drop and a cat will just shoot like 4 feet up into the air and then take off? Deer will do that too if they're surprised by a maniac with a cowbell. And it's a long time before they come back. If I really get them, it's a long time before they come back. Okay. Now, that's as much as a heart I have of like, I'm not shooting a deer. That's not what I do. You know what I mean? I don't want to hurt them. I want them to feel embarrassed.
You want them to go away.
I don't want them to, I don't want to hurt them. I want them to feel, I want them to think about what they've done and just respect the gardening that I've been trying to do. So anyway, one of my mentors asked me recently, what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind, Andy? And I'm like, I didn't know what to say in the moment, but I know now. It's like, I want to help gardeners protect their plants from deer using a cowbell, which is non-lethal in the extreme.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
It is super ridiculous. And my wife recently chased a deer with a cowbell, and I was like,
really?
Yeah. I'm like, I love you. I'll write a sonnet for you. Like, that's how much.
My next door neighbor needs a cowbell. He's the cutest old man. He's in his mid 80s, and he just goes out and yells at them.
Yes. Oh, that guy. That's the man I want to help.
Well, you can send a cowbell to Bob.
You can forward him my podcast. He and your mom will be our 2 listeners.
Oh man! Well, clearly we have another listener who is also a parent, and your cowbell story spoke to their heart.
Yes.
But I think that this is a great question. I love the multi-generational veterinary medicine families. Sure. That makes me super happy. Yes. And also I think it's a good question about how do you help and coach, and it's not just about your own kid, right? But about the next generation to kind of handle their own problems.
Yes, I think that's it. I think for Headspace, there's some things about coaching your kids to handle their own problems. Mm-hmm. And so let's start with that real quick. And so the mama bear, there's a saying my dad used to say, and it is, you're only as happy as your least happy child. And I did not understand that at all until I was a parent. You know what I mean? Again, one of the things that I look back on in my young life and I was foolish about is I did not realize how much what I said and how I felt impacted my parents. I was oblivious. I was self-centered like every young person. Sure. And now that I'm a parent looking at my kids, I'm like, you have no idea how much I feel it when you say I'm really worried about going to high school for the first day. I'm going to put on a brave face and tell you it's fine, but there's few things that can wring my guts out like that does, But you don't know that. And so this is so hard to be somebody who's on the outside and your child is going to vet medicine. The other thing I would say is it's always challenging and it's always really important as a parent to say, what is my objective as a parent here? Is it to fix the problem or is it to help equip my kid to fix the problem? Or, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so my brother had this motivational poster in his room when he was a kid. Somebody gave it to him. It was a gymnast. And it said, don't pray for an easy life. Pray to be a strong person. And I've always thought that my goal is not to try to deliver my children an easy life. Mm-hmm. My goal is to try to help them become a strong person. And that is such a hard pill to swallow. But I think that kind of has to start at the top of Headspace is there's no scenario where Mama Bear goes rolling into this clinic or calls this associate vet. I don't think. And I know that that's hard. And so part of it for us as parents is to sort of decide what our place is in this. And try to make peace with that. But boy, it's hard.
If you step back to, it's really not dissimilar to, I try not to make parenting references in relation to the team. And at the same time, I think when you are a parent, especially when you have a team that includes younger team members, there always was a part of me that was extra worried for my kennel kids.
Oh, yeah.
You just, as a parent, I want to make sure nobody is there by themselves after hours, that they get safely to their cars once it starts getting dark out at night, all of those things. And it goes for the whole team, but especially when you have younger team members working for you. And
they're like the little kids. I hate to say it, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're the elementary school kids on their first day in middle school, and you're like, we care about all the kids, but honestly, it's not about being patronizing. It's not. It's about a power dynamic. It's about recognizing that younger people maybe don't have the life experience and might get into trouble, or they might not feel comfortable sending a text message to the manager after hours. But it's all of those things. I think I also feel that way, and it's important to not make this sound patronizing. But
Yeah.
It's looking out for the people who might need it most.
Exactly. And that's like when you step back, I think that anybody who's in a leadership position can relate to that feeling of a member on your team having a problem. And when you have that problem in front of you, either because someone else told you about it or because they asked for help, or because you observed it yourself, usually it's one of those three reasons, you can solve the problem for them and go mama bear, or you can teach them how to solve their own problems. And so I think that that's always, especially as a parent, the hardest choice to make every time, because sometimes, especially when they are in pain, whether it's emotional, physical, or otherwise, like, it's really hard to not want to take that away if you can, right? Like, that's a hard choice to make as a parent when your kid is really, really upset. I want them to learn life lessons. I want them to be equipped to be good adult human beings. And also, I don't want them to hurt. And so it's really hard to set that aside. And, it's the same as like when someone comes to me with a problem in the clinic and they're like, the printer isn't working. Do I take the 5 or 10 minutes to explain that to them how to fix the thing? Or do I just go fix the thing, be done in a minute and a half and go on with my day? Right.
Yeah.
For me, it's that same kind of feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I agree with that. And so I want to jump aside for 1 second and sort of shift gears for a second piece of headspace here for me.
Okay.
This is for the vets. And I just want to do a quick call out for the veterinarians there. There are a couple things as a veterinarian that you are not allowed to say. And I don't know how I feel about that, but it's just true. And maybe this will change, but one of the things that you are not allowed to say as a veterinarian is, I don't care. And let me look deep into your eyes, my people, my fellow veterinarians, and go, there will be a time that you do not care. Like there will be a time that 3 things are trying to die on you, and there's a pet owner who is called 6 times in the last hour because they want you to answer their random question about, will plain yogurt hurt my dog's skin?
Right.
And they're like, she called again, and you will think, I don't care that she called again. I will call her when I have a moment to breathe and after I get to pee. Then I will call her. Mm-hmm. But you cannot say, I don't care that she called again. And like, you can't say it. And trust me, I hope you're hearing this in my voice. I have not cared at times in my life. Mm-hmm. But and I have said, I don't care. And I remember a specific time when I was a brand new veterinarian and I hurt someone's feelings pretty badly because they were waiting on me. And they said, hey, I want you to look at this. And I said, I don't care that you want me to look at this. I am busy. And I wish I could take that back. And like, I regretted it 10 minutes later, and I've regretted it ever since. And it really hurt them when I said that. And I learned that. But I learned. And since then I was just like, even if you say it to your team, those words really hit hard for people. And everyone looks at you to some degree as you are the veterinarian, you are the doctor. I understand that there's going to be times that you don't care. And like, no one has the capacity to care about everything all the time. I don't think that you can be a vet and say, I don't care. You can say, I'm trying my best and it's going to be a while. And I need you to communicate that to them. But that's what I would say to this vet is just like, hey, look, you're not allowed to say that. You can't. You cannot say it to the young front desk person. Honestly, you can't say it to the senior staff. They internalize it. Some people will decide, hey, if you don't care, then I don't have to care. And and that's just not where you want to go. And so there's not a lot of things that I put into that category of you can't say that. But that's one of the things where I'd say as a vet, you can't say that.
Well, and I think as a vet, but I also think as a leader, and like it or not, as a veterinarian, to your point, when you're a veterinarian on the team, regardless of your position, you are a part of the leadership because you just positionally, you are, whether you want to be or not. And so I think that's true. And I think we can use, I don't care, even like lightheartedly, right? It doesn't have to be meanly, like it sounds like this veterinarian said it in a way that was received meanly anyways. But I mean, I think about hundreds of times where I have probably said to my team, they'll ask me a question and like, I don't have a preference. And so my answer is, I don't care. Right. I care. You know, like just lighthearted, like, I don't care, whatever you want to do. Like, you guys make yourselves happy. It doesn't matter to me. Right. But I love that you pointed out there's power in those words.
It's better to say, I trust you. Or I trust you to make this choice.
I don't have a preference.
I don't have a preference. Yes. I think if you say it in a lighthearted way and you go, I don't care. There's nuance here, of course. You know what I mean? I don't want people to be like Andy said, in no context, in no way, in no time. You get my point.
But think about it.
There's always a better way. I think there's always a better way.
And I think about it as you were saying that. I was thinking about it in the context, like in our house, we have a very strong rule about using the word hate when you don't actually mean it, because that word has power and it is a very strong word. And so since the kids were really little, like that has been something that I have drilled into them, is that think about the choice of word, because hatred is a real awful thing. And I want you to actually understand the gravity of the word you're using. And so, like, as you said that hit me in the gut. To your point, most of the time that I have said it probably really lighthearted. Like, I don't really have I don't care. Whatever you want to do, like, knock yourselves out. And how many times, though, did I say it and someone wasn't sure? I don't know. And, like, I would hate to say that, meaning one thing, and have somebody else feel the meaning in another way. Because to your point, when you say you don't care, like that feels awful coming from someone who's a leader.
I think that was a big one for me. There's another thing. And again, like, I don't think enough people say this. And you and I are big believers in making yourself open and available for feedback and taking feedback and hearing feedback. I truly believe that one of the goals in life is self-discovery. It's know thyself. And so feedback is an important tool in coming to know yourself. And like, as a leader, as a person, trying to understand others' perceptions of you, which are different than your own. Like, how do others perceive you and your actions? I think that's important. The part that not enough people say is that not all feedback is good feedback. And there are people that you should not take feedback from. And I think specifically, trust me, I get feedback online. If I write a thing, there will be people who tell me that, they might not even be, some of them will be just nasty. And they're like, you clearly are a terrible person for writing that maybe our jobs aren't so bad. I've gotten that. And there's other people who will make some valid points or criticisms, or they will make well thought out, not mean criticisms. I simply don't agree with their feedback. They'll say, this is too silly. And I would say, I don't think that you understand what I'm doing as well as I understand what I'm doing. I just don't. I don't think that you understand what my real objectives are here as well as I understand them. And so I understand from your perspective why you think this is too silly. And I hear that and I will think about that. However, I know better than you what my objective is or what needed to be done here. And this is what it needed to be. And so their feedback is appreciated. But I'm not going to take it. And so there is a piece of advice too that I do pull up sometimes. And don't take criticism from someone you would not ask advice. And I do think about that sometimes is there will be criticism that will come from someone who I would never ask them for advice. I don't agree with them. They have a different worldview that like is conflicting with my own. They have different objectives. And they're like, I'm going to criticize you. And I would say, I would not ask you for advice. Let's just say that I try to give an example here. Let's say that you are a person who's focused on access to care. And you're like, I want to make care accessible to all pets. And then someone who is a quadruple boarded specialist whose mission in life is to provide the highest standard of care possible, they might criticize me. And I get that. And I would listen to them. But they're not going the same place I'm going, and their mission is not the same as my mission. It doesn't mean they're a bad person, but just that's not someone I want to take advice from. Also, when I'm online and people are just shouting, I don't. The
keyboard warrior.
Yeah, the keyboard warrior. Like, I wouldn't ask you what you think I should do, and so I'm going to put limited, weight on what you think how you want to criticize me. And so anyway, but I say that if you've got this manager and this associate vet, and there's a pattern of them being mean, maybe don't ask them for feedback. You know what I mean? And if they give you feedback, maybe weigh it against the fact that you're not convinced that they are the best, source of advice or judge of character, and just go, well, that's what they think, but how much weight am I going to put on their opinion? And so there's, there's kind of that thought. And sort of related to that is the old saying of don't confuse the message with the messenger, which means, you should look at, and on the flip, you should look at what they say and try to tease out what are they actually saying, and is there truth to this? And and just because they have been a jerk, if they tell you not to roll your eyes and you've been rolling your eyes, two things can be true at the same time. They can be a jerk, and also that's a valid piece of feedback that we should look at. And so anyway, there's some of that, like, how much weight are you going to put in this feedback? Do you really want to ask these people for feedback? If they give you feedback and it hurts, is it because they're jerks and they're mean, or is it because what they're saying is truthful and that hurts? Or sometimes they're jerks and they're mean and also they're telling the truth and that really hurts. And so I would start to say, I don't really know what's going on there, but one of the skills we have to learn in life is you're going to be criticized by a lot of different people, and some people you should take very, very seriously. And some people you should not take seriously at all. And I don't know where these people lie, but I would ask my daughter that, or the CSR, and go, help me understand, who are these people?
And I agree with all of that. And I think the hard part from a headspace perspective is learning how to sift through the words and look for the truth and set aside the emotion is one of the hardest emotional intelligence skills to learn. It is so, so hard because we're human and we're hardwired to feel the emotions. And it is very difficult to look at something that may be critical and about ourselves, whether it's our behavior, our actions, ourselves as a person, and hold that truth and really hear it. Like, that's really, really hard to do. And so I remember, realistically, I've been in veterinary medicine for over 20 years, but I've been in people service industry work since I was 15. And I can honestly say that it's probably only been in the last 5 years or so that I feel like I've gotten really good at actually hearing and sitting with hard feedback, because, and until recently, my default lizard brain was to be like, screw you,
Yeah. So self-protection, right? It's
exactly. And to just brush off the negative. And the ego is a really strong thing. And it's really hard to, look at things and ask yourself, is there actual truth here? That is really, really hard work, and it's intentional work. And so for the daughter of our writer, that recognizing that that's going to be hard work, and also looks like they're starting to do it already. They're acknowledging, okay, I have been rolling my eyes, or I have been, irritated. And so I've been letting that show on my face. That's a good sign of strong emotional intelligence. And so I think one of the best things that this mom could do is lean away from trying to, fight the urge to try and solve the problem for your kid, even though you want to get them out of pain, and lean into helping teach them those coping skills and those life skills that are going to pay them back in spades for the rest of their life.
Yeah. I think that this episode is really about coaching someone who's getting hard feedback that might not be totally fair or justified. So anyway, that's what I got for Headspace. Do you got anything else in that regard?
I think that's good. You want to take a break and then talk about some action steps?
Let's do it. So the first action step for me is talking to this person who's getting the feedback. And I'm trying to, one, figure out what is true, what is actually going on here. And then two, I'm trying to get them to do the self-assessment that we talked about, where I've gotten this feedback. I don't know if it's true or not. Is this valid? And the question that I would ask, and I ask this to my kids as well, jumping back to the parent role, but I ask this a lot in coaching sort of sessions that I do with people. I would say, if I asked your team what it's like working with you on these stressful days, what would they say? And that whole question is about trying to make this person empathize and say, well, what would they say? How am I being perceived outside? And so I would say to this person at the front desk, I would say, if I talk to the manager and this associate vet, and I asked them what it was like to work with you, what would they say? What would they say are your strengths, and what would they say are your weaknesses? And then I stop talking and I listen. And a lot of times this makes people do, it's amazing how often this question really, it stumbles people. They really have to stop and they go, well, they would probably say that I'm not listening, or they would say that I, don't pay attention, or that I, roll my eyes or whatever. And I go, okay, do you think there's do you think that there's truth to that? And it's really sort of trying to get this person to own what is true in this feedback, or it'd say, do you think that there's truth to that? And they would say, well, no, they don't understand this. And I go, great. Now we're getting somewhere. And in that thing, that might be what we need to have a conversation about. But, until I understand what's really going on, or how you think you're being perceived, or what these other people might tell me, it's hard for me to give you good advice, because I'm only hearing one side of the story. And I've still only talked to one person if I do this exercise, but at least depending on the person, I can get pretty decent insight sometime of what would be the counter argument if I went and talked to these other people.
Well, I also think what you said about who are the people that you would take advice from, or that you would want feedback from. And so I think using that same question, and what I tell my team is, there's always at least two sides to every story, and the truth is almost always somewhere in the middle. And so for this, young reader, it's like, okay, or writer, we get the story of, okay, well, this is what happened with the associate and so taking your point, that's one data point.
Yes,
and so how do you know where the middle is if that's the only data point that you have? And so I would say they clearly feel comfortable talking to the practice owner because they've tried to ask for help already. And so, shifting tactics to use what you said, which is, how do I do, and asking for feedback from their practice owner, but also potentially asking for feedback from their fellow CSRs, right? To your point is like, how do I work as a team? Like when we are really busy, am I helpful? Because not so much to get to hear what they want to hear so that they can dismiss someone else's perspective, but to kind of figure out where that middle lies. Because if they do get feedback from people whose opinions that they do trust, like the practice owner, if the practice owner says, you're phenomenal, like I love having you here, you're great. And also I have noticed that lately you have seemed really irritated. There's been a lot of eye rolling.
Right.
Well, if they hear that kind of feedback, it's going to let them know, yes, they are thought of very, very well. And also shift the data points, from one end of the spectrum to the other. And so I think using that same philosophy and talking to people whose opinions that they would trust, ideally another leader if they're trying to actually elicit feedback, but also potentially from their team, because it feels like the feedback that they're getting from their manager about their teamwork and their ability to do their job well is not super constructive or helpful. Yeah. And so asking the rest of the team may glean some things that they can work on, or areas where they can try and improve. And at least feel, for me, whenever I said earlier, I spent a long time struggling with the negative feedback. And I, believe it or not, have a temper and I'm a bit of a hothead. And so I spent a lot of time getting feedback, or especially early on in my career, and being taking it personally and feeling like screw that person and just brushing off the feedback. And I think being able to hear what the truth might be in what you're hearing, that is really, really hard work. And so if you take someone whose opinion that you trust and who you believe in, it's harder to hear that feedback from them when it's constructive, or when they're telling you that there is something that you can improve on. And the thing that really it took a lot of therapy to get there and understand it. But the reality is every human being has things that they can get better at. None of us are perfect. And our ego likes to protect us and say, well, that's just not true. They're wrong. And also that's just our ourselves trying to protect ourselves and our emotions. And so when you really can sit with it and say, what can I learn from it? To me, I would way rather work on something that I got feedback wise from someone whose opinion that I really care about, than work hard on something that came from someone's opinion I don't care about,
Right. Yeah.
It's, yeah. Yeah. So maybe getting some additional data points and kind of trying to figure out for themselves where actually is the middle in this situation. Because at the end of the day, if I feel like I'm doing the hard work, if I feel like I'm really trying to find the truth, I'm listening, I'm asking for perspectives from other people, and I'm actually working at it, at the end of the day, do I care what people that I don't like think about me? I can sleep well at night and not care about that if I'm doing the hard work for the people that I truly care about.
So imagine this is a young person and you're telling them, Stephanie, well, ask your coworkers for feedback. How would you do that? In my experience, especially if someone's never done this before, and I say, well, just ask your coworkers for feedback. They have no idea how to actually do that. What does that conversation look like if you do it?
Mm-hmm. I think you did a really great job earlier, but probably something along the lines of, hey, I really want to get better at my job. Like, I really love this job and I care about it. What are some of the things that I do really well? Like, what are some of the things that I do that make you think that I'm super helpful or a good teammate? Right. And then once they have given you some feedback there, then saying, are there things that I could work on to get better or to be a better teammate, to be a better, to be more calm in an emergency, to help more when we're super overwhelmed, to, help make the days better for you? Like, what are some of those things that I could do? You want to be specific enough that they're not just going to stare at you and be like, especially if you're a young person asking a teammate, but not too specific that they give you like a 1-sentence answer and then you're done.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on. I just think it's important to kind of throw out like, what does this actually sound like? And so I think it's really good.
Yes.
There's a part of this you mentioned, that this person had talked to the practice owner before and that seemed to go well.
Mm-hmm.
There's one thing, there's a couple things around that I want to throw in. So one, the writer said, we talked to my daughter talked to the practice owner and they said they would work on it, but nothing was done. And I would always say, ding, 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 don't make that assumption. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like with HR, they're often, you cannot tell what was done. You don't know who was talked to, like just because you didn't see anything outward. I know it's frustrating, but you can't assume that nothing was done, like just assuming good intent. I think that's a big part of it. I think that it's very reasonable to ask the question or to get curious and say, I told the associate veterinarian this and she said she didn't care. And I don't understand why she said that. Did I do something wrong? This seemed like a big deal to me. And I think asking, if you're comfortable, if you ever get to a place and the associate vet is, is in a good place and you seem to be doing well, just say, hey, I want to be a help to you. When this case came in, I thought it was important and you said that it was not important, and I don't was I wrong in coding this? What should I do next time to make it better? I don't know what they'll say. They might apologize. They might say, I'm so sorry. Like that was not, or they might say, well, this is what was really happening, or this is what was going on, or this is what you didn't know. I don't know. You could bring that up to the practice owner and say, I didn't understand why this happened. You might be able to ask the associate vet. It really depends on kind of what sort of questions you have. But I do think that kind of get curious of like, what do you want me to do next time? So that I know, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I think that's a big thing. And the last thing for me is if I really felt like I was called out or embarrassed in front of the team at this time, I would say something about that up the chain. Like that is something that I would go, if I was a front desk person and the doctor said something nasty to me or something that embarrassed me in front of others, that you shouldn't have to deal with that. That's not how it should be. Everybody makes mistakes. You know what I mean? I wouldn't try to burn this person at the stake necessarily, especially if they apologized. Yeah. But I would say something to either the medical director, the practice owner, or the practice manager and say, hey, I wanted to tell you about something that happened and kind of how it made me feel. And then I would tell them and see what they said. But you don't have to, if you do something and you feel like you got publicly embarrassed, you should say something, because one, that behavior shouldn't be allowed to go on. And number two, I will tell you this as somebody who's not perfect and who wants to be a good doctor to work with. Like, and you and I, Stephanie, have had this dynamic where I am sort of a bit like, I'll say things, you know what I mean? And like, to me, if it doesn't, it's meant as fun or whatever. And you go, oh, well, that embarrassed me. You know, we joke about it. And I'm saying this in the context of you is because Stephanie does not like to be celebrated or praised in public. Yes. And I thought I was doing something really nice by going, hey, everybody look at Stephanie. Everybody look at her. She's so great. Look at what she did. I made her a big trophy that she's going to hold right now for pictures. And this is living hell for Stephanie Goss, which I didn't know. And so if you didn't tell me, this really embarrassed me, that I would not have known that it was embarrassing for you. So at some point you have to say, I know you didn't mean to embarrass. I know you didn't mean anything bad by this, but this is how this made me feel. And I go, oh, okay. But if you don't tell me, I'm afraid I'm going to keep doing it. And then you're going to go and write letters to podcasts saying, Andy Roark is a terrible person to work for. So anyway.
And I think, just to add on to that, I think if you can't say, I know you didn't mean this, because a lot of times in the moment, like, you are thinking, well, I bet you did mean it because you were really freaking mean, right? You can always say, I assume that you didn't intend for it to come off this way, or I assume that you didn't mean it this way, right? Because we can be wrong in our assumptions, but who's gonna want to admit and look like the a-hole to say, oh yeah, I did actually mean it that way, especially if you're having that conversation in front of your boss, right? So if you as the CSR go to your practice owner and ask for help and say, hey, I'm really struggling because I asked this question. They told me that they don't care. It was in front of everybody else. I felt really embarrassed. But more than that, I felt like I can't do my job because my job is to let them know when there's an emergency here. And so I felt like I was asking for help and I got shut down. And I would really love your help to talk to them about it because I want to be helpful. Like, I want to be able to make their job easier. And I need your help to have that conversation. Imagine if you're sitting there with your, practice owner and an associate vet, like, what person is going to be that kind of a jerk? I can't think of people. I like to assume the best in everybody, but I'm sure that there's someone out there who might say something like that, but it's going to be very, very few and far between, right? Like, most people are going to say, oh, they're going to be embarrassed, and they're probably not necessarily going to own it in the moment, but you may actually get a better conversation if you assume good intent and put it out there that you're assuming good intent versus, saying something that you feel is a lie because you don't believe that they didn't mean it. Like, that's always hard for me. I hate saying, I know you didn't mean that if I think that they did mean it. But you always can say, I assume that you didn't intend for this to come out that way, or I assume that you didn't mean it so meanly, but this is how I felt when you said that,
Yeah, I agree. And so anyway, the last action step, I guess, for me is the old serenity prayer. Give me serenity to accept the things that I can't change, and the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And like, buddy, that comes with experience. That's just, you know what I mean? It's just experience. And so, we're kind of on the outside and we're looking in, and I don't know what needs to be accepted and what can be changed, and depending on what cannot be changed and what can, that may inform where we're going. And so anyway, part of the newsletter was other jobs are kind of hard to come by. And I'd say, well, let's think about, what can we change and what do we need to accept? And then how do we feel about those things? So anyway, that's kind of all I got.
Yeah. Don't go mama bear.
Yeah, don't. That doesn't help anybody. Yeah.
This is one of those painful ones where you have to let the kid experience the thing. And you got to make her feel better and calm down because it's a life lesson and you have to learn them, as painful as they might be.
Yeah, we did the exact same thing. But we say that thing as a parent, and one of the things I've learned more and more in life is the question of, what do you want right now? Do you need to be helped, heard, or hugged? And sometimes your kid's telling you, I need to be hugged. And that's the other thing too, is, when you hear these things in your secondhand, a lot of us, I think, come home and we tell the stories that we know people are going to be interested in.
Right.
And most people are not interested in hearing that our job was mostly okay. But I'm sure that when this person comes home, when they say, yeah, my job was okay, kind of did stuff, nobody reacts. And they go, yeah, and the vet was mean to me again. And then mom goes, tell me more.
Right.
And so is this really an accurate representation of what your life is like at your job? Or are you bringing these things? And I've had that with my own, with my own kids of they'll come home and they'll tell me all the bad stuff at school. And I'll go, so you hate school?
Really,
and they're like, no, I like school. This is just one person. I'm like, why is this person 96% of the things that I hear about at school if it's just one person and you're generally okay? So they're sort of trying to tease that stuff apart too, is to say, how big of an impact does this make on your daily existence at this job? And I think it's a good question to ask. Anyway, that's all I got.
I love that. I love that. Well, have a great week, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. And that's what I got. Guys, thanks for being here, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have a question for us, send it to us in the mailbag. That is a podcast at unchartedvet.com. Just an email to podcast at unchartedvet.com. We would love to take a crack at it. So anyway, guys, take care of yourselves, everybody. I'll talk to you later.